Hello everyone, this is Corolla with Yewno, here to show you how to do a literature review using Yewno Discover. Your assignment is to do a lit review and you recently read Moby Dick. After deciding on the scope of your review, you will want to select the sources to use for your research. Your library will have subject-specific databases available, as well as the library's catalog. Be sure to use those. And lucky for you, you also have access to Yewno Discover, where artificial intelligence and machine learning will help you find concepts and documents relevant to your research. So, Moby Dick, Herman Melville's masterpiece about the whale that got away. You may wonder, how accurate is Herman Melville's description of the whaling scene in Moby Dick compared to today? Great statement of focus for literature review. So let me show you how you might use Yewno Discover's inference engine to summarize and synthesize the arguments and ideas of others. So let's create our search and build a knowledge graph like I have on the screen for you today. I'm going to go into search and I'm going to clear all of this out and start a new search. So we have our search bar right at the top. So let's type in Moby Dick. We'll select this first concept right here and start our knowledge graph. We'll expand this to see all the concepts connected to Moby Dick. And we see all sorts of interesting things to do with the novel. My name is Ishmael, Mount Ahab, Captain Ahab, dealing with sperm whaling, things on nautical fiction, Nantucket shipbuilding, all sorts of interesting concepts. We can take a look here at the documents dealing directly with Moby Dick, and we have a large number of them, over 30,000 of them, so we can certainly limit that by date of publication or particular types of documents. If you only want articles, you can select that. If you only want books, reference works. So depending on how you are building this literature review. So at this time, you can see all sorts of different types of documents, older ones, more recent ones. So if any of these you like, you can select them and put highlight this little star, which will indicate that you want to save this in the journey over here. And then later you can export them and do deeper research into each of these documents. So here in this particular one, it comes from JSTOR. It's represented by a brief snippet, we call them, a brief description of the most important parts of this particular article. And we'll go back to the knowledge map. So let's expand this and look a little bit deeper. We can do that in a couple ways. We can select one of these concepts here, or we'll just click on search, and then we can expand to sperm whaling, for example. And select that. And now our knowledge graph is going to expand to include Moby Dick and sperm whaling. And we could look at these in more detail and see if there are other concepts that are of interest. What I want to take a look at is whaling controversies. I'm going to select this right here. And again, I'm going to expand our knowledge graph and see all the concepts that are connected to one another and in other ways that I might want to research in this knowledge graph. So we've got Aboriginal whaling here, different types of whales, whale vocalization, and then here under whaling controversies, we have whaling in Norway, the Arctic minke whale. Here's one that interests me, whaling in Japan. So One of the things to do with Moby Dick is to see how much like today was the whaling industry back at that time. And one of the areas that's had a lot of controversy are the whaling practices of Japan. So we can expand this and bring this last concept into our knowledge graph. And so now we can see various connections. We have whaling in Japan and how it's connected to whaling controversy. But we also have whaling in Japan and how it's connected to Moby Dick. And I want to take a look at that. So now these are concepts that deal with both whaling in Japan and Moby Dick. And then also we have a listing of documents. So these are ones you may want to take a deeper look at. So we have the structure of Moby Dick, careful disorder, and it is free to read, so you can link to it directly. And I've already highlighted that one. And then we have, oops, didn't mean to close that. Then we have this other one, Melville's Japan 287 and Prestige, etc., etc. So this is an open source document as well that you can take a look at. And this might be real helpful in doing your research. So we're going to go back to the knowledge graph, and I'm going to take a snapshot of this particular knowledge graph. And you can do that using your computer's snapshot capabilities, or just right here, you can screenshot it or take the snapshot right here, and that saves everything into the journey. So we just took this snapshot. We've also indicated that we're interested in these specific documents. So I'll click them. It shows us all the steps that we've engaged in. We can view our document, and then you can export these with this little cloud. So if you want to have the knowledge graph exported, you can do that to Google Docs. And then as far as the citations that you might want to take a deeper look at for your literature review, you can export them in an RIS format for your citation manager, or the documents to a CSV file. This will help you organize your thoughts and research of the scholarly literature. I hope this was helpful. If you have suggestions for a different lit review or any other type of research in Yewno Discover, please reach out at support@yewno.com. Thanks so much.